what is self-join and how we are going to use self-join concepts in our MySQL. Before start the self-join concept, let me just introduce you what is self-join. A self-join is basically helps to join a table with itself only. But why do we need that? Because there is some time we need to combine the data with the other data in the same table and the table by itself only. In that case, we use self-join. We can perform self-join using table aliases. The table aliases actually help us not to use the same table name twice with a single statement. But if we use the same table name more than one time in a single query without table aliases, it will throw an error. The table aliases enable us to use the temporary name of the table that we are going to use in the query, right? So now we are going to see how can you actually use this self-join concepts, right? And what are the examples of self-join concepts, right? So let's go to MySQL Workbench and let's have a look at how we can implement this concept. So we have a table called student table. In the table, we have few attributes. We have student ID, name, course ID and duration. Student ID is obviously varchar and name is also varchar. So we give the length of varchar 30 for name and for course ID we give 30 as well. And the duration of the course, right? So here we are going to execute the student table. So we need to write create table and the table name that is student and then all the attributes. Let me just execute that. Yes. Now what we are going to do, we are going to insert the data. So inserting data, again we need to use insert command, that insert into, then where you need to insert, that is student table. Then you are going to provide all the values. For my case, the first student ID is 1, then the name of the student is Asif and the course ID is 2 and the duration is 4 hours, right? So this is how we are actually going to insert all the data in the student table. Let me just execute all the data we are going to insert. Yes, it's already inserted. Now we are going to use the self-join. But wait, how we are going to use that, right? So we are going to get all the result, that is student ID and the name, from the table where student ID is equal and course ID is not equal, right? So basically from the table itself, you want to understand that a particular student is enrolled for how many courses, right? So in that case, if you look into the data, you can see Asif is actually enrolled for 2 courses. One course is 2 and second course is 1, right? Atul is also enrolled for 2 courses, that is 1 and 3. But for the case of Jasmine and Aditi, they don't enroll for the multiple courses. So basically from this data, you want to understand how many students are actually enrolled for multiple courses. That time we are going to use self-join technique. But how we are going to use that, right? First, you need to write select always we are going to use that, right? Then we are going to give a alias name. The alias is s1 dot. Then we are going to what you want to have. If you want to have student ID, you can give student ID, and if you want to get the name, you can actually go for doing that as well. So s1 dot student ID, comma s1 dot name. So I want both the student ID and name. From where? From the student table, right? And then I am going to give a alias, the concept we have learned in the beginning of the session, right? In the beginning of the tutorial, we have learned how we are actually use this alias concept. So basically giving a temporary name to a table. So in this case, we are going to give s1. Now, for the student s2, the second temporary name, because we are going to use the same table, and this is why we need to give 2 different alias. Otherwise, it's going to give an error. Then we have written where, the where clause we have learned in the beginning as well, that now we are going to give a condition, and based on the condition, this join is going to happen, right? What is our condition? The student ID will be same, but course ID will not be same. So in that case, we are going to write s1 first alias dot student ID is equals to s2 dot student ID, and the second one is s1 dot course ID, that is not equals to, this sign is basically used for not equals to. So not equals to s2 dot course ID, right? So let me just execute that and let's have a look at what we are going to have. Yes, you can see this Jasmine and Aditi is not there in our table because you can see Asif, or maybe we are going to write Okay, so I just want to see the course ID as well. So in this time we have written course ID, right? Let me just execute that. Yes, you can see for we got the student ID, name and the course ID. So Asit is basically enrolled for course 1 and course 2, and Atul is actually enrolled for course 3 and course 1. Right? This is how, if you want to get data from your one table and you have no other option, like if you want to get the name that who are actually enrolled for multiple courses, that time you really need to go for using self join. And self join is one of the most used technique and one of the most favorite question for the interviewer. They are going to ask you about self join, so it's very necessary that you are actually have a quite a clear idea about self join, right? So now we will almost see all the joins we have in SQL. Now let's go to presentation and let's have a look at what else we have in our MySQL tutorial.